Lucas noticed the man on a Tuesday, though later, when he tried to piece it together for his father, he realized the man had probably been there since the Friday before. Same grey jacket. Same distance, always half a block, never closer, never quite far enough to disappear entirely. At first Lucas told himself it was nothing, a neighbor, a jogger, a coincidence repeating itself by chance. By the third day, he stopped telling himself that. He didn't say anything to his parents. Not at first. After the notebook, after everything he'd learned about the weight of secrets in this house, some stubborn part of him wanted to prove he could carry one himself before running to his father with it. By Thursday, that pride had curdled into something closer to fear. The man was outside his school gate that afternoon, leaning against a lamppost, not even pretending to look elsewhere when Lucas walked out. Their eyes met for exactly 1 second before the man looked down at his phone, unbothered, patient in a way that felt worse than if he'd looked away in a hurry. Lucas walked straight past the waiting car, past Victor, and didn't stop until he was 3 blocks away, in a coffee shop he'd never been inside before, heart hammering, telling himself he was overreacting even as his hands wouldn't stop shaking. Victor found him 19 minutes later. He didn't ask why Lucas had run. He simply sat down across from him, ordered nothing, and waited. "There's a man," Lucas finally said. "Grey jacket. He's been following me since Friday." Victor's expression didn't change, which somehow made it worse. "Describe him." Lucas did, as precisely as he could, height, build, the small scar near his left eyebrow he'd noticed only that morning when the man had gotten close enough at the bus stop to be memorized. "You should have told me the first day. I didn't want to be a problem." "You're not a problem." Victor's voice was quieter than usual. "You're the reason I still have a job, Lucas. Protecting this family isn't a burden. It's the only thing I'm good at." They didn't return home directly. Victor took a longer route, doubling back twice, watching the mirrors with the same intensity. Lucas remembered from the night of the anonymous call. By the time they reached the house, 2 additional men had already been stationed along the perimeter, summoned by a single text Victor had sent before they'd even finished their coffee. Don Romano was waiting in the study when they arrived, and the moment Lucas walked in, he knew his father already understood everything, the way he always seemed to know things before anyone told him. "Sit," Don Romano said. "Lucas, Saturday. Start from the beginning. Every detail." Lucas talked for 10 minutes, and his father listened without interrupting once, the particular stillness that Sophia had once described as him memorizing something on purpose settling over the room like a held breath. When Lucas finished, Don Romano didn't speak right away. He crossed to the window instead, looking out at the dark garden, hands clasped behind his back. "A man who follows a 12-year-old for a week without approaching him isn't trying to hurt you," he said finally. "He's trying to understand your patterns. Your school, your friends, which route you take home, who picks you up and when. Why would anyone want that? Leverage." The word came out flat, worn smooth from use. "You're not the target, Lucas. You're the way in." The room went cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. "Is this connected to the man watching the house? The photograph?" Don Romano turned, and for a moment something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe, that his son had put those pieces together on his own, followed quickly by something heavier, something that looked almost like grief for the childhood Lucas was rapidly losing the right to. "I don't know yet," he admitted, which cost him something to say out loud. "But I intend to find out tonight." He picked up the black phone from his desk, the one reserved for 6 people in the world, and for the anonymous voice that had called once before with a name he'd never received. "From tomorrow," he told Lucas, "you don't walk anywhere alone. Not the 15 feet from the car to the school gate. Not the bathroom during lunch. Someone is with you at all times until I know exactly who's watching my son and why. For how long? Until I decide it's over." Lucas nodded, and for once didn't argue, didn't push back the way he had over the gun, over the notebook, over every boundary his father had drawn around him since the day he'd first asked to learn what his father once learned. Something about the grey jacket outside his school gate had taught him, faster than any lecture could have, exactly what all those boundaries had been protecting him from. That night, after Lucas had finally fallen asleep, later than usual, lamp still glowing faintly under his door, Don Romano stood once more at his study window, phone in hand, staring at a text message Victor had just sent, a still photograph pulled from a traffic camera 3 blocks from the school, grey jacket, scar above the left eyebrow, face turned just enough to be unmistakable. He recognized the face immediately. It was the same man from the photograph slipped through his gate a week earlier, the one circled in red pen, standing beside a version of himself that no longer existed. A man who had been dead for over a decade. Or who Don Romano had simply been told was dead, by people he'd trusted enough, back then, not to ask for proof.